Is that, yeah, okay. Let us know your film and just...
Hi everyone, I'm Andy Trushinsky. My film is Bullets to Books. My whole team is here. Our film is about one-man jock Abraham Thon's mission to save his country, South Sudan, through education, by educating the minds of the youth to stop gun violence specifically. So we met him in Washington out of nowhere. Gail met him at, he was a Mandela Fellowship Award winner, and she's like, what do we do with this amazing man? I said, let's make a documentary. And before we knew it, 6 months later, we did it.
Good evening. My name is Frank Rue. I'm that other Korean filmmaker. Tonight, we're screening our feature, The Fabulist, and it's starring the one and only Sandy Marks. She can't stand because she's working on a really intense new story about her getting hit by a car. You know, I know there are a lot of storytellers in this room, and I want to acknowledge you guys. If you guys can stand up, I want to give you guys a round of applause, because we couldn't have made this film without you guys. You invited me into your world, and this film is about you guys as much as it is about Sandy Marks. I want to thank the Big Apple Film Festival, and I'll stop talking now. Enjoy the film.
We'll get into depth with the Q&A, and we'll have Sandy come down, and yeah, we'll definitely get those questions going after. All right, enjoy. Thank you, guys. All right, let's do one more round of applause for this amazing documentary. If I can have the directors come on back down. I know there was two of you. As Sandy tries to make her way down, she has a broken ankle. Foot.
Okay, we're here. My Sherpa's getting
Would you like Wilson?
Yeah, this is real second. We'll.
Got your card.
Yeah, let's get this scooter.
So did you guys have fun?
So we'll kind of go online, and Sandy will have many questions for you, but both of you talk to us.
Yeah, I don't know.
Tell us a little bit about your film.
Well, first of all, I'm super mesmerized that story was incredible. I'm still in that world right now. I gotta remember I made a film with my people as well. I just want to congratulate all three of our groups. Completely different stories, all told with incredibly moving. So, just to speak from my point of view, Bullets to Books was so strangely hard to make and super easy to make at the same time. I referenced that this kind of all took place within a 6-month window.
How did you come upon the topic and give us a little background?
So Gail, who's our executive producer, right over here. Gail met Jock, who is the person who's created this school, because he was granted access to the United States to the Mandela Fellowship, which is awarded to Africans to travel to the United States, or where they like, I think, but mainly the United States, to try to figure out what they can do to better their own country and their own society. So they just happen to be at the same lunch, and he's this beautiful man who has just this open soul that you're like, I will do anything for you. What do I do? What can I do to help you? Yeah. So exactly, we found this avenue in through an educational aspect through the U.S. government somehow, okay? And we got over to Africa and able to do it with Sean, who's our DP over here as well. We were so amazed at this. This happened like in a time frame that was the beginning of it. So then fast forward a couple months. We get a hold of the Mandela, or the Washington Fellowship version of it. They said, okay, can you go in June? This is April. We're like, what? To a country that is on the no-fly list, has been like banned for Americans to go to, and you're saying we could go. Okay, so we went. We were able to have access fully with cameras. We were more restricted to specific areas to go to.
How big of a crew did you bring?
It was Sean and I who were filming everything, and the educational component and the producing element was done all by Gail. So just the three of us.
Great. And how was shooting down there? What was complications, benefits?
Yeah, a lot of complications, but generally we were able to have access to anything Jock wanted to do because he was also working for the United States Embassy. He was working for the U.S. ambassador in South Sudan. So we were able to only film within his school, our hotel, and also at the embassy. And so we had to figure out different ways to get different angles to make it look like we were all over the country. But if we went all over the country, you may not see us here. Right?
And what is the update? Is there a current update on Jock?
Yeah, so Gail has fortunately been able to find ways to be able to do immediate work on it to fortify the walls of the school. So that's the first step. But now we've been able to meet with an architectural designer who is from South Sudan originally, and now all the groundwork has been laid, and now we're in the stages of raising funds to be able to do the school. Then the next is for housing for the kids so they can stay overnight there. So there's a multi-stage plan now, so everything's starting to move its way.
Great. That's terrific. So where is this film going? Where's we can find this? What's next?
Yeah, so this is the very beginning. This is our first film festival to be able to screen it anywhere like this. So yeah, this is incredible. I'm here from Long Island City. So it's so cool to be able to start it out here. But now it's all in the submission phases and that, and we'd like to extend it out. Jock is actually going to make it to the United States in April.
Has he seen this yet?
He has not seen it. He has not seen any stills yet. So we're extremely excited. We're going to do, at the Goethe Institute in DC, we're going to do a screening. Then we'll present it to him and then film him some more to get some more story from him.
Yeah, terrific. All right, round of applause. Thank you so much. All right.
I have to hear about an ass hat.
Let's just
Brilliant, wonderful, great, very story, and this schmuck is
not at all.
whatever.
So let me start with what is your relation? How did you guys meet?
All right, so I did a show a few years ago at the Yard, which is a common workspace. And Frank was also part of that show. And I just ran in there and I performed, and I didn't know Frank. And for whatever reason, there was something about my story that resonated with him. And he approached me after, and he very kind of exuberantly said, "I want to do a movie about you." And I thought, well, maybe he's into like old lady porn or something. I thought, I'm not really interesting. Like, what could he possibly want to do a movie about? It's like watching paint dry. But he always sort of had this vision from the first time we met. And I'm really glad I trusted the fact that he wasn't into old lady porn.
Was this your first time seeing this?
No.
Okay, so you've seen the film before.
Yeah.
What's it like watching this and watching your own story?
It's horrifying.
I was sitting behind you, and I could hear you laughing and crying, and the whole rage.
Yeah, because I was horrified looking at myself. So yeah, it's great. I mean, it's very truthful, and it's his film. I'm just the subject, so I didn't get to do what I normally do in life, is try to control everybody. So I had to let go of that and just be really
vulnerable,
open and vulnerable, and allow him to do whatever he wanted to do, and trust the fact that he knew that what he was going to do. And I just allowed for it. And he was an incredible person to work with, and I knew he would never turn this out to make me feel really awful about what he did, even though I hate my face. But that's besides the point. But outside of that, it's just been a really incredible experience. And to have somebody follow you around for 3 years is not easy.
I was just going to ask, how long did you guys shoot for? Or
3 years, right?
It was about 3 years, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard. I mean, there were nights when my husband Keith would be in the shower, and I'd hear him yell, "Can I come out now?" It's not easy.
Is Keith here?
Yes, Keith.
Where is Keith?
Keith.
You can try here. Yeah, stand up, Keith.
I also want to add, and not only is Keith here and my children, 2 out of 3 children, but my beloved first husband, who I actually am very good friends with, is also here.
Amazing.
So, where you are, there weren't 3, there he is. If it weren't for him, I wouldn't have all those adorable children. So yeah, everybody's here to support.
Great. And I have to ask you, because you have such an obviously amazing story and you've been through a lot, does anything surprise you anymore?
Well, no, because, for instance, the reason I look like this is I was hit by an Uber cab walking across the street 3 weeks ago. So, fuck it. It's a Wednesday. Things happen. I don't know. You just have to look both ways. Shit happens. So, no, nothing surprises me. It's really not about what happens. It's how you take care of yourself afterwards.
Yeah.
How do you deal with, we all have crap go on every day. And the ones of us who can survive it somehow, find a way, find deep within ourselves to just say, tomorrow something will be better, it is going to work. I only have myself to trust that I can survive whatever it is. And, I plan on being around for a long time, driving everybody crazy. Yeah, so, yeah. But also, what made me want to do this film so much is that when you're a woman of a certain age and you feel invisibility just choking you, like coming towards you, after 50 or 60 or 40 even, we all have something interesting to say. And it's so exciting to me that Frank wanted to make a movie about a woman who would not be somebody you would think anyone would be interested in hearing about. Yeah. And that's really
put a voice to
right?
that, yeah.
So that's what I really like.
Amazing. Frank, how is it working with her?
Well, I think I got it right
Yeah.
that night. She's a star, and it was clear the minute I saw her. It was like lightning bolts were hitting me, because she's fucking hilarious, but she has something to say, and there's a there with her, and that was readily apparent. I think you saw it on screen, and it was an amazing experience. It was 3 years of our life. It's
this is really the labor of love for both of you. Yeah, that's amazing. There was something else I was going to ask, but I'm going to open it up to the audience really quickly. Does anyone have any questions, actually, for either films? Yeah, go ahead.
For the second piece, 3 years is quite a long time. How did you know when to pull the trigger and say, okay, this story is done? Or did you try to be like, oh, wait, some more stuff's happening?
I keep shooting. I'm shooting right now. I'm shooting. 3 years is a long time, and you learn your footage, you watch it over and over again, and you know what's missing, and then you know when you have it. And I mean, we shot 2/3 of the film, and I cut it into like this 40-minute short, and it was missing something. We weren't getting at a story, and then
You got lucky, I got sick.
then the sickness happened, and then by that point our lives were intertwined, and it just seemed very obvious to continue shooting it, and it was hard to shoot that. Was it hard? And that's...
How was editing 3 years worth of footage?
Really difficult.
I can imagine.
In the past, I've had other collaborators, but I've had great people that are close to me watching the film, and I wanted to point out some people.
Yeah.
We wouldn't have gotten our last scene at Joe's Pub if it weren't for Tommy Kriegsman. And I have some trusted collaborators, my camera guys, who shot some additional footage with Ben Rosen and John DeJown and Johan Ospina, who's in the audience as well. And they also we're all filmmakers, so we get to exchange this stuff and watch and making me notes, and I feel terrible about myself, and then I go back to the edit and continue. And of course my wife, who sat through all of this crap and watched me come home at 2 a.m. and be miserable, and she supported me throughout the whole thing. And my 5-year-old daughter as well. So, it was 3 years as a filmmaker, it's like a family affair at that point.
Absolutely. Great. Is there any other questions here?
They all know everything about me. There's nothing to ask.
Let's go ahead.
This is for Sandy and Frank. I think one of the coolest things about watching this movie was seeing all of these different kinds of venues. I was wondering if you had a favorite one.
Well, on the top of my head, I might say Big Herbs. And there were a lot of great venues, Caveat, Le Poisson Rouge, but Big Herbs and Adam Selps, the wonderful host, in his apocalyptic Candyland. Thank you. But that was part of the fun of doing this was, you know, for people who aren't in our community to see what it's really like in New York, to go work going upstairs and downstairs and all these little fun places. You know, this is really New York. You know, it's not a scene out of Mrs. Maisels. This is like really what it is. This is really, you know, we work for drink tickets and maybe $10 or whatever. And we're all like, yippee! You know, this is really what it is. It's
now, you memorize most of your stories, or is there room for improv when you get up there?
I just know them. You know, even though I write them, they're my stories. You can't forget your own story. It's not like it's someone else's. So yeah, they always change and morph, and I also work things out with the audience. So if I show up at a show and no one there looks like they're over 23, I gotta change it because they're not gonna know what the hell I'm talking about it if I bring up like Don Pardo or somebody. I don't know. Like they don't like. I once did a show. And I was talking about being on the $10,000 pyramid with Dick Clark, which was a long time ago. And I could see, this is before I came back this year, and people were like, $10,000 pyramid? What, is that something where you like give like to Bernie Madoff? What is that? Like they didn't know what I was talking about. So you have to tailor it to your audience. You know?
So there is kind of, you
gotta play around.
You got a little.
Yeah, you gotta play around.
You seem very obviously comfortable up there. Like you said, these are your stories.
Yeah. I like a lot of words, so I can always find the right ones. So
yeah.
Figure it out.
Great. Any more questions? Yeah, in the back.
For both filmmakers, I just wondered, was there anything that happened off camera that you wish you'd been able to include?
Yes. It was South Sudan. It's a country we're not supposed to go to. The big one was I call it soft detaining. There was a moment where we were in the midst of an interview and someone of the communications department of their country was not informed of us being in the country. And it just so happened he was in the atrium where we were giving an interview. Two white guys from New York sitting down and going, okay, this man is yelling in the background. Okay, I guess we just keep going with the interview, I guess. And just probably mad at someone on the phone. Turns out he was calling the South Sudanese government about us. So we had to figure out, okay, all right, so let's just stop this interview. And in the meantime, we're interviewing a man who is one of the lead reporters of the country. And he's like, you guys okay? Everything okay? He's pretty mad at you right now. Well, yeah, naturally, I couldn't get that. So they had to stop us. They made us stop recording everything in that. But that was all happening, the argument between certain factions of people on our side versus the people that were in the communications department. And within that time frame of about an hour, we're wondering, are we going to jail or not? And then all of a sudden another man came around and started saying, like, this man doesn't know what he's talking about. Everything's going to be fine. We'll work it out. So there was about an hour and a half where we're like, I knew this was going to happen. I knew this was going to happen. But it all worked out fine, everyone. We're here, we're alive.
I mean, it happened all the time. Sandy is always on and always giving great material. And there's the film that you saw, but there's the film we had. And that's between us. And I wish you guys could see that film. But that's going to be the one that we take to our grave. So it's like, that's it.
But I will also add that I do wish that we kept in the film, Danny Ortiz and I, we were, the night when you saw me in that silver shirt when I'm like using my inhaler, that was Danny's shirt. And the reason I was like that is we had just lip synced to Janet and Michael Jackson. I was Michael, he was Janet. And we were doing, what was the song, Danny? Scream. At this little bar, and it was, we had rehearsed it, we had choreography that he made, we went to a rehearsal studio to work it out, and I was just exhausted. So, but he was gracious enough to lend me a silver shirt, so that didn't get in the film. So there were a lot of like silly things like that. But
personal moments.
Yeah, it could have gone, it could have been like, you know, Heaven's Gate, it could have been a 12-hour.
Could have been a miniseries.
Great. Anyone else? Yeah, right there in the middle.
I was really struck by how the storytelling community of New York was portrayed in the movie, and as a storyteller, I was really touched by it. I was wondering, Frank, if you were familiar with storytelling before you started work on this, and what struck you about it?
I mean, honestly, I didn't even know it existed. I'm not a podcast listener, and I was invited to do this storytelling event, and Don Frazier from The Moth, who I'm sure a lot of you guys know, trained us, trained a small group for a week, and we all took the mic, and I was like, and I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know what I was doing afterwards, and then Sandy came on, and they brought in a ringer at the end, and once I saw Sandy, I understood what this art form was, and I had to pursue it at that point.
And talk, actually, question for Sandy. You said this is not stand-up comedy. There is a big difference between those two worlds. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Well, I think with
fact.
stand-up comedy, which is an incredible art, and I wish I could do it, there's a setup and a punchline, and people have a shorter patience, so they expect to laugh right away, like every 5 seconds. But if you're telling a story, people are much more patient. So you can be funny and you can tell kind of jokey stuff, but people wait for the payoff, and it's not just set up punchlines. It's not like that. Yeah. There are a lot of brilliant comedians who are storytellers, obviously. Yeah. Some of my favorites. Even like a Dave Chappelle, who's a brilliant storyteller. But to be a storyteller, it's not, a lot of us try to cross over, and only some of us are not me necessarily, but there are a few very successful at it. Yeah. But it's hard, because the audience does have I've done comedy shows, and I could feel like my sweat smiles, because you feel yourself bombing, because people expect you to be funny right away. They don't want to wait. So that's, I think, the difference.
Yeah, interesting.
I just want to add one thing.
I think the portrayal of the community is very much from the heart, and it's very much like that. If you're not familiar with this community, seek it out. Go see these shows, support these storytellers. It's incredibly rewarding and real, and I'm so thankful that you guys invited me in and accepted me with my camera in your face, and I was just a weird guy in the corner shooting, and and you didn't ask any questions, and I hope I represented you guys.
Yeah. Great. So I'll take one more question if there's anyone else in the audience. Yeah, right here.
Yeah, Frank, could you just opening it up a little bit more? There is sort of like a meta quality of you as a storyteller framing, training the camera on a storyteller. You spoke about when you first saw Sandy that, bolts of lightning were going off. Just tell us a little bit more about what you saw in that. And, there's so much in New York that you can tell a story about. Why did you choose to tell a story about a storyteller? And, what is important about that to you?
I just think storytelling right now is more important than ever, and truthful storytelling is more important than ever. I don't think we've had a crisis of content like this in our culture ever. And what I saw in Sandy was a truthful, real person who could deliver as a performer, but there's a content there, Ben. That there's a way to talk about these issues through action, through a person's life, and that's why I followed it. I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, no, it's something that struck you.
I'm swimming through it, and it's there is a meta quality to it. There is a moment when I'm thinking, I'm telling a story about a storyteller, and she's telling a story, and I feel like I'm going into this inner space, but that's when I just slap myself and go outside to get a breath of fresh air, and go back and edit like just a regular movie.
Yeah. Great. So where else can we find this? Where is your path of this?
We've also been we're in the wait now for a bunch of other festivals, so we're hoping we start touring soon.
Yeah. Great.
Yeah.
Great. Anything else that either of you guys want to kind of add or comment before we wrap this up?
Thank you for coming.
Yeah.
Thank you all very much. And feel free to, I just met her, but I'm assuming everyone here is really friendly. Come and talk to us. Thanks.
Yeah. All right, you guys. Thank you so much. Have a really great night.